It was a bleak October night as I walked along a sloppy mixture of mud and gravel. The dimly lit country roads seemed to stretch on forever. What started as a gentle drizzle had quickly evolved into a full-on downpour. Up ahead, I saw a fence alongside the road. Each fence post was spiked on top to discourage trespassers, I'm sure. I picked up my pace running along the fence line until I reached its gated gravel driveway. A sign hung from the gate saying, "Haunted House. Enter if you dare." Now, I had been past this fence many times before, and I'd never seen this sign. Interesting, I said to myself. Considering I was getting soaking wet, dare I did. As I sprinted up the long driveway, I could barely make out, through the pouring rain, the silhouette of the so-called haunted house that stood just ahead of me. It was utterly dilapidated. The roof was nothing but rotting slate. That, frankly, was 2 good storms away from caving in. The paint was falling off in chunks from its old wooden sides. And the windows, which were so grimy I could barely see through them, were decorated with cheesy stickers of grinning jack-o'-lanterns, ugly witches, and angry black cats. I struggled to find the path that led up to the house, as it was overgrown with waist-high weeds that were long since dead. As I walked onto the front porch, cobwebs encased my head, causing me to flap around wildly. I hate spiders with a passion, and the thought of one of those vile little creatures on me. Well, I can't have that. While checking myself to make sure nothing was crawling on my clothes, I was taken by surprise when the front door suddenly slammed open, hitting the outside wall of the house hard. I looked up to see a rather large, middle-aged man standing in the doorway before me. He stepped onto the front porch to greet me, wearing a sweat-stained red t-shirt and black sweatpants with stains of an origin I'd prefer not to imagine. He was also wearing a small cape, more like the superhero variety, and less like the vampire version that he was clearly going for, considering the tacky vampire teeth awkwardly sticking out from his lips. His voice assaulted my ears as he bellowed into the cheesiest spooky voice he could possibly muster. "Welcome to Claiborne Manor, my friend. I see the downpour couldn't deter you from venturing out this night. It fills this cold, dark heart of mine with great joy to find you on my doorstep. I don't know why you chose to walk here in this rain, but I'm really glad that you did." I not only was shocked by his bad acting, but I was surprised he was calling it a manor when even my own home looked like a true castle compared to this shack. I looked back at the driveway I had just walked from, and seeing the rain forming into giant puddles, I hesitantly replied, I don't live too far from here, and I was already walking down the road when it started raining. I figured I'd check this place out since I needed a place to get out of the storm and everything." "Well then, are you in the mood for some good old-fashioned spooks this Halloween night?" "Well, wait a minute. It's already Halloween?" Wow, I haven't been keeping track of the time at all. I'm at that age where so many days have passed by in my life that they all just sort of mesh together, you know? I watched the man quickly scan my body, patting his incredibly stretched out stomach with mild confusion in his eyes. "You don't look that old, my boy." "Yeah, I get that a lot." "Well, regardless, I think you should come inside. I'm offering you this terrifying experience for the low cost of nothing." Sure. Sounds great." "Wonderful. Walk this way." With that, the man stepped aside and gestured me to enter. As I crossed the threshold, bright flashing LED lights filled the entryway and momentarily blinded me, leaving me a bit disoriented. After shielding my eyes and recovering my vision, I began to look around. Most of the decor was about as cheap as I thought it would be. Apparently, he couldn't hire real actors and had to settle for foam puppets of werewolves and ghosts instead. I made my way towards the hallway, and a pale, bat-like creature swung out in front of me. Of course, it was suspended by a fishing line attached to the ceiling. I gotta admit though, it did give me pause. The only decent decorations in the house were the corpses that lined the walls. Brittle and rotten, they looked like mummies without their wrappings. Nearing the end of the hall, I found the one and only actor in the quote-unquote haunted house. It was the same man from earlier, still wearing the black sweatpants and tiny cape, but he was now shirtless and donning a hockey mask, stained with what looked like blood? Ketchup. He held an axe that was positively drenched in the stuff as he ran towards me. Despite his immense body weight, he ran rather quickly, and I stepped backward, shocked by his speed. He took a wild swing just ahead of me, and I wasn't sure whether to shout or laugh watching the axe as it descended hard onto the floor. Seeing how dedicated this man was to his acting was quite entertaining. The next swing, however, went directly into my shoulder. I crumpled to the ground without so much as a gasp. He stood looming over me. He lifted the hockey mask from his face, and there was a newfound hunger in his eyes. A dementedly gleeful grin spread across his face as he kneeled down beside me. He had done this before, and he really liked it. He spoke to me, completely dropping the act from earlier.
Well, kid, I'm sorry. A guy's gotta get his kicks in somehow, but I hope you rest peacefully. And happy Halloween.
His sadistic little quip turned into a horrific scream as I sank my fangs, now fully extended, into the side of his neck, savoring the taste of his warm blood as it poured freely into my mouth. Wiping his blood from my face, I quipped back,
I definitely got a kick out of that, kid.
Once I'd had my fill, I stood up, took a step away from him, and yanked the axe from my shoulder. Not gonna lie, I was a bit annoyed by the gap it left, though it would heal quickly with a good day's rest. I watched in pleasure as his body sank lifelessly onto the filthy floor, and his expression changed from fear to none at all as he passed out. I chuckled softly to myself as I effortlessly picked him up and slung him over my shoulder. Walking past all the corpses that I had sucked dry long ago, I would have never imagined someone would turn my playhouse into a haunted attraction. I had enjoyed the time we had together while it lasted, but I was really hungry as of late, and I needed a body big enough to sustain that hunger. I stepped back out into the rain and cursed under my breath. It's hard enough flying around carrying this kind of weight, but the rain made it even harder. Oh well. Fortunately for me, I didn't live too far away. Thanks for listening. And if you're looking to get more kicks as well, why not listen to a few more stories? And have a happy
Halloween.